She was sold for pennies, deemed broken, until one man proved them all wrong. The twin suns of Kaura 9 burned high above, their heat pressing down on the sprawling slave market like a heavy fist. Dust swirled through the air, thick with the smell of rust, sweat, and desperation. The market was alive with noise. Traders shouting, drones buzzing, chains rattling as beings from across the galaxy were paraded for sale. Towering holograms flickered overhead, advertising warriors with spiked tails, dancers with shimmering scales, and workers built for endless labor. Credits changed hands fast, and lives were bought cheaper than scrap metal. Amid it all, she stood unnoticed, a figure so still she might have been a statue. Her name was Lyra, though no one bothered to ask. Her skin shimmered faintly, a deep blue that glowed like the edge of a nebula, with thin silver veins pulsing beneath it. Her eyes, wide and silver, stared at nothing, reflecting the chaos without reacting to it. She was thin, too thin, her frame draped in a tattered gray cloak that hid little of her strangeness. The crowd passed her by. A trader with 4 arms waved a scanner over her, muttering about low-energy output before moving on. Another poked her arm, snorted, and said she smelled like stale starlight. To them, she was defective, a relic not worth the space she took up. The seller, a squat creature with oily feathers and a voice like grinding gears, was losing patience. Rare find, he croaked, waving a clawed hand at Lyra. Unmapped species, no upkeep, take her for free if you haul her off. The crowd laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the metal stalls. Free didn't mean valuable here, it meant trouble. No one wanted a mystery they couldn't profit from. Lyra didn't flinch. She'd learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. Her mind drifted, catching fragments of something distant. Cool winds, a sky full of colors, voices calling her name. Memories or dreams, she couldn't tell anymore. Then he appeared. Jack trudged through the market, his boots kicking up red dust, his jacket patched and faded from years of wear. He was human, a rarity this far out in the galaxy, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that carried a quiet storm. Humans were known out here, stubborn, loud, unpredictable. Jack didn't fit the stereotype. He was a scavenger, a drifter who patched ships and traded junk to survive. He wasn't rich, wasn't powerful, but he had a habit of seeing what others missed, and he saw Lyra. He stopped, hands in his pockets, watching her with a frown that wasn't pity or greed, just curiosity. The seller perked up, sensing a chance. "Hey, you, human, you like oddities. She's yours, no charge, just take her." Jack didn't answer at first. He stepped closer, ignoring the seller's chatter, and looked into Lyra's eyes. She met his gaze for a heartbeat, then looked away, her silver veins pulsing faster. "What's her story?" Jack asked, voice low but steady. The seller shrugged. "No story. Found her drifting in a wrecked pod, no tags, no records. Doesn't talk much, probably broken." Jack crouched, studying her like she was a machine he could fix. "She's not broken," he said, more to himself than the seller. "She's waiting." The seller blinked, feathers ruffling. Waiting for what? Jack stood, brushing dust off his hands. "Don't know yet. I'll take her." The seller grinned, shoving a data chip into Jack's hand with a hurried transfer of ownership. No questions, no fees, just relief to be rid of her. The chain around Lyra's wrist clinked as Jack took it, but he didn't pull. He unhooked it instead, letting it fall into the dirt. "You can walk," he said simply. Lyra hesitated, her bare feet shifting on the hot ground. No one had ever dropped her chain before. She followed him, slow at first, as the market's noise faded behind them. Jack led her to the edge of the sprawl, where his battered skiff waited, a small patched-up ship humming with old tech. He didn't speak much, just pointed to a seat inside. "Name's Jack," he said as the engine sputtered to life. "You got one." She stared at him, then whispered, "Lyra." Her voice was soft, like wind over glass. Jack nodded, like it was the most normal thing in the world. They lifted off, the market shrinking below them, and headed toward the dusty hills. Jack's skiff wasn't much. A cot, a workbench, a stove patched with tape. But it was his. He glanced at Lara, who sat rigid, hands clasped tight. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Just didn't like seeing you stand there like that." She didn't reply, but her eyes flicked to him, silver catching the dim light. Something stirred in her, a question, a spark. Who was this human, and why had he bothered? For the first time in years, Lara felt the weight of her own curiosity. And Jack, steering them into the unknown, felt it too. This was no ordinary salvage. This was the start of something bigger. The skiff rattled as it cut through the dry air of Calranine, its engines coughing like an old beast struggling to breathe. Jack gripped the controls, his knuckles white, while Lyra sat beside him, her silver eyes fixed on the horizon. The hills loomed ahead, jagged and red under the twin suns, their shadows stretching like claws across the cracked earth. Jack's home wasn't much. A shack carved into a cliffside, patched with scrap metal, and powered by a wheezing solar grid. It wasn't safe, not really, but it was his. He glanced at Lyra, her blue skin faintly glowing in the dim cabin. "We'll lay low here," he said. "Figure things out." She nodded, barely, her silence louder than words. They landed with a jolt, dust billowing around the skiff. Jack hopped out, offering Lyra a hand she didn't take. She stepped down on her own, her bare feet silent against the ground, and followed him to the shack. Inside, the air was cooler, smelling of oil and burnt wire. A cot sat in one corner, a table cluttered with tools in another. Jack tossed his jacket onto a hook and pointed to a stool. "Sit if you want." "Hungry." Lyra shook her head, her hands folding into her lap. She watched him move, slow, deliberate, like he was giving her space to run as she chose. She didn't. Outside, the wind picked up, howling through the hills like a warning. Jack frowned, stepping to the window. The sky was darkening fast, not with night but with something heavier. Clouds rolled in, thick and bruised, crackling with streaks of violet lightning. "Storm's coming," he muttered, more to himself than her. Lyra's head snapped up, her silver veins pulsing brighter. She stood, her breath quickening, and moved to the window beside him. The air smelled sharp now, like metal and ozone. Jack glanced at her. "You okay?" She didn't answer, her eyes locked on the horizon, wide and unblinking. The first rumble of thunder shook the shack, rattling the walls. Lyra flinched, her hands gripping the window frame. Jack saw it, the way her body tensed, the way her glow flickered like a failing light. "Hey," he said, voice soft but firm. "We're safe here. Got a bunker below. Come on." He moved to a trapdoor in the floor, prying it open with a grunt. A ladder led down into darkness. He grabbed a lantern from the table and started down, pausing to look back. "You don't have to, but it's better down there." Lyra hesitated, then followed, her steps quick and shaky. The bunker was small, metal walls, a bench, a stack of blankets. Jack lit the lantern, its warm glow pushing back the shadows. Thunder roared again, louder now, and the ground copybook slammed shut above them. Lyra sank to the floor, knees pulled tight to her chest, her breathing fast and shallow. Jack sat across from her, leaning back against the wall, watching her with quiet concern. "Storms like this hit hard out here," he said, keeping his tone light. "Saw one take out a whole convoy once. Lightning chased us for miles." He paused, waiting for a response. None came, but her eyes flicked to him, listening. The storm grew wilder. Wind screamed overhead, clawing at the shack, and the bunker shuddered with each crash of thunder. Lyra's glow pulsed faster, her hands trembling. Jack leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You've seen storms before, huh?" Her voice came, faint but clear. "Yes. Too many." He nodded like he understood. Me too. First one I saw, I hid under a crate. Thought the sky was falling. A flicker of something, maybe recognition, crossed her face. Did it? She asked, her voice barely above the storm's roar. Jack grinned. Not yet. Lightning struck close, the flash seeping through cracks in the hatch. Lyra gasped, curling tighter, her glow flaring bright then dimming. Jack slid closer, not touching, just near. They used storms, she whispered, her words jagged. To control us. Pain followed the thunder. Jack's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. No one's controlling you now. You're here. With me. She looked at him, silver eyes searching his face, and for a moment, the fear softened. The storm raged on, but Jack kept talking. Simple stories, nothing heavy. How he'd fixed a trader's engine with wire and spit. How he'd once eaten sand grubs to win a bet. Lyra's breathing slowed, her glow steadying. Then she spoke, quiet but sure. My people, we felt everything. The air, the hearts of others. Storms broke us. Jack tilted his head. But not you. You're still here. She didn't reply, but her shoulders eased, just a little. Hours passed, the storm's fury fading to a low growl. Jack stood, offering a hand this time. It's over. Want to see? Lyra took it, her touch cool, hesitant, and they climbed back up. The sky was clearing, stars peeking through torn clouds. She stepped outside, face tilted up, her glow soft and calm. Jack joined her, hands in his pockets. Told you we'd make it, he said. She didn't smile, but her eyes held something new. Trust, maybe, or the start of it. The storm had tested them, and they'd held strong. Together, the air outside Jack's shack was still heavy with the storm's aftermath, damp and tinged with the sharp scent of scorched earth. The twin suns climbed higher, burning off the last wisps of cloud, casting long shadows over the red hills. Lyra stood near the skiff, her blue skin catching the light in faint, shimmering waves. She hadn't spoken much since the storm passed, but her silence felt different now. Less guarded, more thoughtful. Jack tinkered with the solar grid nearby, his hand steady as he twisted wires and patched a cracked panel. He didn't push her to talk. He'd learned she'd speak when she was ready. She watched him work, her silver eyes tracing his movements. The way he handled tools, careful but sure, reminded her of something she couldn't quite grasp. A memory flickered, faint and fleeting. Hands shaping crystal circuits, voices humming in a rhythm she'd forgotten. She shook her head, letting it fade. Jack glanced up, wiping sweat from his brow. You're staring, he said, not accusing, just curious. Lyra blinked, then stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the dirt. You fix things, she said. Why? Jack shrugged, setting down a wrench. Always have. Keeps my hands busy, my head quiet. Out here, if you don't fix what's broken, you don't last long. He paused, studying her. You ever fix stuff? Lyra's glow pulsed faintly, her fingers curling into her palms. Once, she said, her voice soft. Long ago. He raised an eyebrow, waiting. She hesitated, then sat on a nearby crate, her cloak pooling around her. My people, we didn't fix machines. We held stories, feelings, the past. Jack leaned back, resting his elbows on the skiff. Held them. Like in your head. Lyra nodded, her eyes distant. We were called keepers. Our minds could carry what others couldn't. Memories, dreams, truths. We gave them back when they were needed. Her voice wavered, and she looked down. But they took that from us. From me. Jack's face softened, but he didn't interrupt. He could feel the weight in her words, the kind that came from losing something you didn't know how to live without. She continued, quieter now. I was young when they came. Ships in the sky, fire on the ground. They'd burned our hulls, our crystals. Took us to cages. They thought we were tools, empaths to sell, to use. They didn't know what we really were. Her silver veins flared briefly, then dimmed. I stopped feeling after that. It was safer. Jack rubbed the back of his neck, his voice low. But you're feeling now, aren't you? Lyra met his gaze, startled. She hadn't expected him to see it. The cracks in her walls, the way her glow betrayed her. Yeah, she admitted, almost a whisper. I don't know why. Jack grinned, small but real. Maybe because you're not in a cage anymore. He stood, brushing dust off his hands, and grabbed a small box from the skiff. Here, found this in a wreck last month. Thought you might like it. He handed it to her, a tiny device, no bigger than her palm, with a cracked screen and faint lights blinking inside. Lyra turned it over, her fingers tracing its edges. What is it? She asked. Jack shrugged. Dunno. Old tech, maybe a recorder. Figured you could mess with it. She held it like it was alive, her glow brightening. Without a word, she pressed a button. A faint hum started, then a voice. Garbled, alien, but alive. Her eyes widened, and she adjusted it, her hands moving with a precision Jack hadn't seen before. The voice cleared, speaking in a language he didn't know, but Lyra froze, her breath catching. It's a song, she said, her voice trembling. From my world. Jack watched her, saw the way her face changed. Pain, yes, but something else too. Wonder. Tell me about it, he said, sitting beside her. Lyra hesitated, then spoke. It's about the stars. How they guide us, hold us. We sang it to remember who we were. Her fingers tightened around the device. I thought I'd lost that. Jack nodded, his voice gentle. You didn't. It's still in you. She looked at him, silver eyes shimmering, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her past shift, not gone, but shared. He leaned back, staring at the suns. I've got my own ghosts, he said after a while. Used to run with a crew, fixing ships for the trade lanes. Good people. Then a job went bad. Raiders hit us, took everything. I got out. They didn't. His voice cracked, just a little. Been alone since. Thought it was easier that way. Lyra tilted her head. Why did you stop? Jack glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Guess I got tired of running. Then I saw you. The words hung between them, simple but heavy. Lyra's glow steadied, her hands resting on the device. You're not like them, she said. The ones who took me. You see me. Jack chuckled, rubbing his jaw. Hard not to. You glow like a damn star. She didn't laugh, but her eyes softened, a spark of something new igniting. The past wasn't gone, but it wasn't all she had anymore. And Jack, watching her tinker with the recorder, felt his own shadows lighten. They were building something. Small, fragile, but real. The suns dipped low over Cowrenine, painting the hills in streaks of orange and shadow. Jack's shack stood quiet, the hum of the solar grid a steady heartbeat in the stillness. Lyra sat at the table, the old recorder in her hands, its faint song looping softly. She'd been adjusting it all afternoon, coaxing more sounds from its cracked shell, fragments of her lost world. Jack watched from the doorway, leaning against the frame, a rare calm settling over him. For a moment, it felt like they could stay like this, two broken pieces finding a fit. But the galaxy didn't let peace last long. A sharp beep cut through the air, jolting them both. Jack spun toward the console on the wall, its screen flashing red. Perimeter alert. He muttered, tapping the display. Lyra stood, her glow flickering with unease. What is it? She asked, stepping closer. Jack's jaw tightened as he scanned the data. 6 signals, moving fast. No ID tags. Not traitors. He met her eyes, his voice low. They found you. Lyra's silver veins pulsed brighter, her hands clenching. She'd known this might come. The market didn't let mysteries slip away so easily. Jack grabbed a pulse rifle from a crate, checking its charge with quick, practiced moves. Mercenaries, he said, probably hired to grab you, dead or alive. doesn't matter to them. Lyra's breath hitched, but she didn't freeze. "I won't go back," she said, her voice sharp with a fire Jack hadn't heard before. He nodded, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "Good, then we fight." He handed her a metal rod from his workbench. "Not much, but it'll hurt if you swing it right." She took it, her grip steady, her glow flaring with purpose. They moved fast. Jack rigged the skiff's spare battery to overload if anyone got too close, a makeshift bomb. Lyra rewired the solar grid's output, turning it into a stun pulse that could fry a drone or knock a merc off their feet. She didn't ask how. She just did it, her hands dancing over the wires like she'd been born for this. Jack watched, impressed. "You're full of surprises," he said. She didn't look up, but her voice was firm. "I'm done hiding." The air thickened with tension as they fortified the shack, turning their fragile refuge into a battlefield. The first sign of trouble was the dust, kicked up by boots, rising in a cloud beyond the ridge. Then came the sound. Heavy steps, the whine of weapons powering up. 5 figures emerged, clad in mismatched armor, their faces hidden behind visors. A 6th hovered above, a drone, its red eye scanning the shack. Jack crouched by the window, rifle ready. "Here they come," he whispered. Lyra knelt beside him, rod in hand, her glow steady now controlled. She wasn't shaking anymore. The mercs didn't waste time. A concussive blast hit the door, splintering it inward with a deafening crack. Smoke poured in, stinging their eyes, but Jack fired first, a warning shot that clipped a merc's shoulder. The others scattered, shouting orders in a guttural tongue. Lyra tossed the rewired solar grid into the doorway, and it erupted in a flash of blue light. 2 mercs stumbled, clutching their heads as the stun pulse hit. Jack grinned. "Nice one." But the fight wasn't over. The 3rd merc lunged through the smoke, a blade gleaming in his hand. Lyra swung her rod, catching him across the knees with a crack. He went down, howling, and Jack finished him with a pulse to the chest. The drone swooped lower, its laser cutting a line through the wall. Jack ducked, shoving Lyra behind the table. "Stay low," he yelled, then rolled out, firing at the drone. It sparked and spiraled, crashing into the dirt outside. The last 2 mercs closed in, bigger than the others, their armor dented but thick. One grabbed Jack from behind, slamming him into the workbench. Tools clattered to the floor as he grunted, struggling. Lyra didn't hesitate. She leaped, her rod smashing into the merc's visor with a force that surprised even her. Glass shattered, and the merc staggered back. Jack twisted free, kicking the 2nd merc's legs out, then fired point blank. Both went down, still and silent. The shack was a wreck, smoke curling through the air, walls scorched, the floor littered with debris. Jack leaned against the table, breathing hard, blood trickling from a cut on his arm. Lyra stood over the fallen mercs, her chest heaving, her glow bright and fierce. "You okay?" Jack asked, voice rough. She nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "Yes." "You?" He managed a tired grin. "Been worse." She stepped closer, her silver eyes locking with his. "They won't stop," she said, not a question but a fact. Jack straightened, wincing as he flexed his arm. "Then we don't either." He grabbed a bag from the corner, tossing in tools, a medkit, anything they could carry. Lyra picked up the recorder, slipping it into her cloak. They didn't need words to know what came next. Staying wasn't an option. The mercs were just the start, a warning of bigger threats on the way. Outside, the suns were sinking, the sky a deep red. Jack kicked the skiff's engine to life, its growl cutting through the silence. Lyra climbed in beside him, her rod still in hand, her glow a steady beacon. "Where to?" she asked. Jack gripped the controls, his eyes on the horizon. "Somewhere they can't follow." The skiff lurched forward, dust trailing behind them as they sped into the unknown. They'd fought and won, not just against the mercs, but for each other. Freedom wasn't theirs yet, but they'd die before letting it go. The skiff roared across the barren plains of Calranine, its engines straining under the weight of haste. Dust churned in their wake, a red cloud swallowing the shack they'd left behind. Now a smoking ruin against the darkening hills. Jack's hands gripped the controls, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. Beside him, Lyra sat rigid, her silver gaze flicking between the sky and the ground, her blue glow steady but bright. The mercs were gone, but the silence felt like a trap, like the galaxy was holding its breath, waiting to strike again. They couldn't stay on this rock. Not anymore. Jack broke the quiet first, his voice rough over the engine's growl. "We need a ship, something fast, off the grid. I know a place." Lyra turned to him, her cloak fluttering in the wind. "Where?" she asked, her tone sharp with curiosity. "Edge of the transit hub," he said. "Old friend runs a yard there. She owes me one." Lyra nodded, trusting him without needing more. The skiff jolted over a ridge, and the hub came into view, tall walls of rusted metal, dotted with landing pads and blinking lights, a maze of shadows and noise. They ditched the skiff a mile out, hiding it under a tarp of dusty canvas. Jack led the way on foot, his rifle slung over his shoulder. Lyra close behind with her rod tucked into her cloak. The hub buzzed with life. Traders haggling, drones whirring, engines rumbling as ships lifted off into the starry void. No one paid them much mind. Humans and aliens blended here, all chasing their own escapes. Jack flashed an old ID chip at a gate guard, who waved them through with a bored grunt. Lyra's heart pounded, but she kept her head low, her glow dimmed under the cloak's hood. The shipyard sat in a grimy corner, tucked beneath a leaning comm tower. A faded sign flickered above the hangar. No credits, no mercy. Inside, a woman knelt under a sleek, patched-up hauler, sparks flying from her plasma torch. She was wiry, her skin marked with old burns, her hair a tangle of black streaked with silver. Jack called out, "Mira." She didn't budge, just shouted back, "If you're here to collect, I'm broke." Her voice was gravelly, laced with a smoker's rasp. Jack smirked. "It's me, you old scrap rat." Mira slid out, goggles perched on her head, wiping grease from her hands. She squinted at Jack, then grinned, a crooked, knowing look. "Thought you'd be dead by now." Her eyes slid to Lyra, narrowing. "Who's this?" Jack stepped forward. "Lyra. We're in trouble. Need a way off-world." Mira raised a brow, sizing Lyra up. "Trouble's your specialty." "What kind?" Lyra spoke before Jack could, her voice steady. "They're hunting me. Mercs already hit us." Mira whistled low. "Authority." Jack shook his head. "Worse. Hired guns." Mira rubbed her chin, then jerked a thumb at the hauler. "Got a jump ship prepped for Taro 3. Short range, no beacon. Leaves in 30 minutes, or you're out of luck." Jack nodded. "That'll do." They moved fast, Mira barking orders as Jack hauled fuel cells into the ship's belly. Lyra climbed inside, her fingers flying over the nav panel, stripping its tracking codes with a speed that made Mira pause. "She's good," Mira muttered to Jack. He grinned. "Told you she's special." The ship was small but tough, scarred hull, engines that purred with hidden power. Lyra patched into the comms, scrambling its signal to dodge any scans. Jack loaded the last of their gear, a bag of tools, a medkit, the recorder she'd clung to through it all. Mira watched them, arms crossed, a cigarette dangling from her lips. "You're burning bridges, Jack," she said quietly, stepping close as the engines warmed. "This ain't just a favor anymore." He met her gaze, unflinching. "I know. She's worth it." Mira smirked, but there was something soft in it. "Last time I saw you, you pulled my ass out of a trade bust, faked a clearance code, got me clear of the patrol. Never forgot that." Jack shrugged. "You'd have done the same." She laughed, dry and short. "Maybe. Just don't die out there." She slapped the ship's hull. Stepping back. Go. The hangar doors creaked open, revealing a sky streaked with stars and the faint glow of approaching drones. Too close, too fast. Jack threw himself into the pilot's seat, Lyra beside him at the co-pilot's controls. "Ready?" he asked, hand steady. She nodded, her glow flaring with resolve. Yes. The engines screamed as they launched, the ship shuddering under the strain. Drones locked on, their beams cutting through the dark, but Lyra's tweaks held. Signals scrambled, leaving the pursuers blind. Jack wove through the hub's towers, dodging fire, then punched the throttle. The ship broke free, climbing hard into the atmosphere. They jumped, a flash of light, a lurch in their guts, and the chaos vanished. Blackness stretched before them, stars sharp and endless. Jack leaned back, exhaling hard, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. Lyra stared out the viewport, her hands still on the controls, the recorder resting in her lap. "We made it," she said, almost disbelieving. Jack glanced at her, a tired smile breaking through. "Told you we would." The silence settled, warm and alive. Lyra's glow softened, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. "You didn't have to do this," she said. Jack shook his head. "Yeah, I did. You're not cargo, Lyra. You're someone." Her breath caught, and she reached out, her cool fingers brushing his hand. "So are you." The ship drifted on, carrying them toward Terra 3. A chance, a hope, a new start. They'd escaped, not just the mercs, but the shadows of their pasts. Together, they were unstoppable. The jump ship hummed softly as it drifted toward Terra 3, a small moon orbiting a gas giant in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The stars outside the viewport glittered like scattered jewels, cold and vast. But inside, the air felt warm, alive with the steady rhythm of survival. Jack slouched in the pilot's seat, his hands resting on the controls, though the ship was on autopilot now. Lyra sat beside him, her blue glow dim but steady, the recorder cradled in her lap like a lifeline. They hadn't spoken much since the jump, but the silence wasn't heavy. It was the kind that came after a storm, calm, earned, shared. Terra 3 grew larger ahead, its surface a patchwork of gray rock and faint green patches where stubborn plants clung to life. No cities, no towers, just a scattering of old mining outposts and a thin atmosphere that barely held breathable air. Jack tapped the console, pulling up a scan. "No authority signals," he said, voice rough from fatigue. "No trackers either. We're off their grid." Lyra nodded, her silver eyes tracing the moon's curves. "Safe?" she asked, testing the word. Jack shrugged. "For now. That's enough." The ship touched down on a flat stretch of stone near an abandoned outpost, its landing gear groaning as it settled. Dust puffed up around them, settling slow in the weak gravity. Jack grabbed their bag, tools, medkit, a few rations, and stepped out, the air cool and thin against his skin. Lyra followed, her bare feet silent on the ground, her cloak billowing slightly in the faint breeze. The outpost loomed ahead, a cluster of domes, rusted and cracked, but still standing. Jack kicked open a door, revealing a dusty interior, a table, a bunk, a flickering power hub. "Home sweet home," he muttered, half a grin on his face. Lyra stepped inside, her glow casting soft light across the shadows. She set the recorder on the table, its faint song looping, a thread of her past weaving into this new place. Jack powered up the hub, its hum filling the silence. "We can fix this up," he said, hands on his hips. "Make it ours." Lyra tilted her head, curious. "Ours?" He nodded, meeting her gaze. "Yeah. No running, no hiding. Just us." Her silver veins pulsed, and for the first time, a small smile curved her lips. "I'd like that." They worked together, clearing dust, patching leaks, rigging the hub to draw power from the ship's core. Jack showed her how to seal a crack with melted alloy. Lyra taught him to tune the recorder's signal, pulling clearer notes from its memory. Their hands brushed once, twice, accidental, then deliberate. Each touch felt like a promise, unspoken but real. By nightfall, the outpost glowed faintly, its lights weak but steady. They sat outside, the gas giant's rings arching across the sky, a quiet beauty neither had seen before. Jack broke the stillness, his voice low. "Ever think about what's next?" Lyra looked at him, her glow softening. "I didn't dare. Not until you." He chuckled, rubbing his jaw. "Guess I'm not much for planning either. Always just kept going." She leaned closer, her shoulder brushing his. "Why me?" she asked, not accusing, just wondering. Jack stared at the rings, his eyes distant. Saw too many people give up, on themselves, on others. "Didn't want that for you. Figured you deserved a shot." Her breath caught, and she looked down at her hands, the silver veins tracing patterns she'd once feared. "I was afraid," she said. "Of feeling again. Of remembering." Jack turned to her, his face soft but firm. "You don't have to be. Not here." She nodded, slow and sure, then reached into her cloak, pulling out the recorder. She pressed it, and the song played, clearer now, a melody of stars and hope. "This was my people," she said. "But I'm more than that now. Because of you." Jack's grin widened. "Nah, you were always more. I just helped you see it." She laughed, a small bright sound that surprised them both. It echoed off the domes, a spark of life in the stillness. They sat there, listening to the song, the moon's quiet wrapping around them. But the galaxy wasn't done with them yet. A faint beep sounded from the ship, pulling Jack to his feet. He jogged inside, Lyra close behind, and checked the console. A signal. Weak, scrambled, but there. "It's a broadcast," he said, frowning. "From the hub." Lyra adjusted the feed, her fingers quick, and a voice crackled through. Rough, urgent. "To anyone out there, Cowra 9's gone hot. Mercs hit the market, looking for a blue-skinned runaway. They're paying big for tips." The message cut off, static hissing. Jack cursed under his breath. "They're not giving up." Lyra's glow flared, but her voice was steady. "Let them come. I'm not running anymore." Jack met her eyes, a spark of pride in his. "Neither am I." They stood side by side, the outpost their fragile fortress, the stars their witness. Tarot 3 was no paradise, but it was theirs, a place to stand, to build, to fight if they had to. Lyra's hand found his, cool and firm, and he squeezed back. The hunt was still on, but now they faced it together, not as prey, but as something stronger. The song played on, a quiet defiance in the night, and for the first time, they both believed they could win, not just survive, but live. The faint hum of the outpost's power hub buzzed through the night on Tarot 3, a steady pulse beneath the vast, ringed sky. Jack and Lyra stood outside, the broadcast's warning still ringing in their ears. The air was cool, the silence thick with the weight of what came next. Jack's rifle rested against his shoulder, its barrel glinting in the dim light of the gas giant overhead. Lyra's glow shimmered softly, her silver eyes scanning the horizon, the recorder tucked safely in her cloak. They weren't running anymore, but they weren't naive either. The mercs wouldn't stop, not with credits on the line, and the galaxy had a way of finding what it wanted. Jack broke the quiet, his voice low but firm. "They'll come eventually. More of them, better armed." He glanced at Lyra, checking her resolve. She nodded, her glow steady. "I know. But this time, I'm ready." Her words carried a strength that hadn't been there before, forged in the fire of their escape. Jack grinned, a flicker of pride in his tired eyes. "Good. Then we make a stand." They turned back to the outpost, their makeshift home, and got to work. No more fleeing, just fighting for the life they claimed. They spent the next hours fortifying the domes. Jack rigged traps from spare parts, tripwires linked to pulse charges, a jury-rigged turret from the ship's old defense grid. Lyra reworked the comms, turning the broadcast signal into a looping decoy to confuse incoming scans. Her hands moved with a quiet grace, her mind sharp with memory and purpose. "My people hid from storms," she said as she worked, her voice calm. "We didn't fight. I will." Jack nodded, tightening a bolt. "Humans don't hide easy either. Guess we're a good match." Dawn broke over Tarot 3, the sky shifting from black to a pale gray-green. The first sign of trouble came with a low rumble. Engines, distant but closing fast. Jack climbed the comm tower, peering through cracked binoculars. 3 ships crested the horizon, sleek and black, their hulls marked with mercenary scars. "Here they come," he called down. Lyra joined him, her rod in hand, her glow flaring bright. "How many?" she asked. "Too many," he said, but his grin was sharp. "We've got this." The ships landed hard, kicking up dust and stone, disgorging the dozen mercs, armed, their visors glowing red. A leader stepped forward, a towering figure with a plasma axe, barking orders in a guttural tongue. Jack and Lyra ducked inside the outpost, taking cover behind reinforced walls. The first blast hit, shaking the dome, but the traps held. A merc tripped a wire, and a pulse charge exploded, sending him sprawling. The turret whirred to life, spitting energy bolts that forced the others back. Jack fired through a slit, precise and steady, while Lyra waited, her senses sharp, feeling their anger, their greed. The mercs adapted, splitting to flank the outpost. 2 breached the side, smashing through a weak panel. Lyra moved first, her rod swinging with a force that cracked armor and bone. Jack followed, his rifle barking, dropping one before the other could react. They fought like a unit, her speed, his strength, a dance of defiance. The leader roared, charging the front, his axe carving through the door. Jack tackled him, taking a graze to the shoulder, but pinning him long enough for Lyra to strike, her glow blazing as she drove the rod into his chest. He fell, and the rest hesitated, their confidence cracking. The fight turned fast. The turret took out another ship's engine, sending it crashing in a fireball. Lyra's decoy signal scrambled their comms, sowing chaos. Jack and Lyra pressed the advantage, pushing the mercs back step by step. The last few fled, limping to their remaining ship, its engines screaming as it lifted off. Dust settled, the outpost scared but standing. Jack leaned against the wall, blood seeping through his jacket, breathing hard. Lyra knelt beside him, her glow soft as she pressed a cloth to his wound. "You're hurt," she said, worry in her voice. He smirked. "Worth it." They sat there, the silence returning, but it was different now, triumphant. The recorder's song played faintly from her cloak, a quiet victory. But the galaxy wasn't blind. A drone, small and unnoticed, had hovered high above, its feed streaming live to the trade hubs. Word spread fast, a human and a blue-skinned alien, fighting off mercs on a nowhere moon. Traders whispered, smugglers cheered, slaves dared to hope. Jack and Lyra didn't know it yet, but they'd become a spark, a story that wouldn't fade. Jack stood, wincing, and offered Lyra a hand. She took it, rising beside him. "What now?" she asked, her silver eyes bright. He looked at the stars, then back at her. "We live. Build something. Let them try to stop us." She smiled, real and warm, her glow wrapping them both. Together. He squeezed her hand. Always. The outpost stood as their defiance, the moon their new beginning. The galaxy watched, and for once, it wasn't fear they inspired. It was wonder. 2 souls, human and alien, proving that worth wasn't sold or taken, but made.